4 years have now passed since the West Indies' epic win over England in the 2016 World T20 final in India. I've caught up with captain at the time, Daren Sammy, and that man, Carlos Brathwaite, to relive what was an incredible night in the history of West Indies cricket. Daren, you were like, of course I remember that scorecard. It was the best night of my life. What was the difference though for this one? Because you guys had won it already.
I think the manner in which we won that one, the pressure we were under on everything we experienced as a team. I know when selecting the team, Carlos wasn't part of the team. And I could remember in a selection meeting saying, I really wanted Carlos, because I think from watching him play the T20s that leading up to the World Cup, he was playing really good cricket. And I'm not trying to boost up your head here, Carlos.
Continue. I'm loving it.
I did remember, and I think me and you had that conversation. I remember telling the selection panel, Carlos will come into this team and he will have a massive impact for us. And everything we run for, I know Bravo also sent Carlos voice notes about everything and what would happen. So just the whole experience and the difficulties we faced in that tournament, to see it end with Carlos hitting 4 sixes, something that has not been done in a World Cup final before, to get us home. I think it was just special and out of this world.
Carlos, how do you remember it? Because obviously, like I say, we seem to just remember the emotions as if they were just yesterday, but it is 4 years gone now. Has it sunk in yet? Do you still say, oh yeah, I hit 4 sixes in a row? Or do you go, geez and ages, how did I hit 4 sixes in a row?
No, it turned more to appreciation, to be fair. It felt like a burden just after, because I tried to live up to media hype. But it's funny because Ashley Nerish, some of the good friends, we were all on the tour eventually. Unfortunately, Polly got injured. That gave me my opportunity. And I remember we were all talking like from the Dubai trip. I can't remember if you can remember, Sam, that Dubai camp. That was amazing. And we just all were talking about, the roles that we all three play just to finish the games. And let's try to find ways in any scenario, anything, just to finish games regardless of the outcome. So we had a fantastic run. I think you won all 9 tosses, and we batted last in all of them. Every game there was padded up, hoping to get my chance to finally win a game. It happened against South Africa. They didn't replicate it against Afghanistan. Then the finals came, and we weren't sure who was to go out. Sammy had just got out and was walking back, and I was like, "Nah, this is my time." So I jumped up, told Ramdin, "I'm going." And then like divine intervention. I'm a believer in Christianity and a believer in God. And as much as you try to prepare yourself to get in the zone, I don't think I'd ever be in the zone mentally as much as I was that night. And then everything just happened even better than I imagined. Before I faced the first ball, I just wanted to get Marlon on strike, to be fair. And then it was like 4 balls later we win.
Funny thing, right? During that last over, Alexis, myself and Chris Gill were sitting together. Jordan bowled a really good 19th over. And Marlon was facing the last ball, and Chris was saying, boy, we need that last ball to go for a boundary, because like 19 is a lot. And in the nets, we always say, okay, 6 balls, 15 runs. Yeah. That's what we always practice in the nets. And I remember Kisha saying, boy, 19 is a lot. And I was telling him, look, if that first ball goes for 6, it's over. Because that 18 from 5 compared to 13 from 5. It's pressure on the bowler. And then, whoa, never thought I would see 4 consecutive sixes. In fact, Ramdin, on the first 6, Ramdin was halfway down the field. He thought we had won. We had to pull him back. Man, it was halfway to
the boundary. I thought I was out. Yeah, because that's the one that I did miss it. So it was almost walking back.
Yeah, nah, man. Like you said, Carlos, it was a miracle, man, and kudos to you. You know, it was your time to shine and bring the mantle home for us. But I just think the whole experience, you know, throughout this campaign, it's true testament that, you know, when we as a team put our heads down and focus on one goal, you know, we will find ourselves elevated in the most trying circumstances because we had that belief and that unity among the group to win, man.
And you know, one thing for me that stood out too, like watching back the videos and stuff. Obviously, it had the cameraman at that point in time also on our dugout, and we know we've played in teams. Alexis, you'll be wrong, cricket, and there's so many times where it gets down to the last over. A team needs 12 and 13, and some guys are already in the dressing room packing the stuff, packing the gear bag. They're giving up hope, and I speak under correction, but I think everyone was either in the dugout or outside the dressing room, watching on and supporting. So obviously, I didn't know that when it was batting, but it's testament to the character of the team, the togetherness that we had, and as Daren said, that fighting for one common goal. Just because I'm not the person out there at that time doesn't mean that I don't have faith in whoever is the one person with ball in hand or two persons with bat in hand to bring us home. So I mean, yeah, fortunately, I had the privilege to be the person to be hitting the winning runs and in the way that I did it. But it was a true testament to everything that happened that tournament, that we could come together and win the tournament the way that we did. And you mentioned it's not every day that you get a team that win a tournament and only have two guys. I think the crazy was two guys in the team in the tournament. Mm-hmm. So it just shows that everyone held a hand up at some point in time when the team needed it, and we didn't depend on a one or two person to win the tournament for us.
And Carlos, speaking about you as well, because in those situations, I mean, anybody's mind could easily be rattled, and I'm sure you'd have had your skipper trying to coach you through it, but there's only so much you could do. But I feel like you almost thrive in situations like that. We saw a glimpse of it, whether you want to remember it or not, in the 50-over World Cup last year against New Zealand, where it looked like it could happen. It looked like it was ready to bowl that ball, but, you know, it didn't happen. I've seen you in, you know, our regional cricket in the West Indies, playing for the combined campuses and colleges as well, captaining the combined campuses and colleges and leading them to, again, yet another unexpected victory. So do you feel like there's just something in you that clicks when you are in these high-pressure situations?
Funny enough, and I guess some people would underestimate him and not appreciate his ability, but Alexis Nunes is someone that I look up to when it comes to those nail-biting situations. And he's someone who I think holds his nerve more often than not. And, you know, we've had this thing where we try to push each other. So we may not get most wickets, we may not score most runs, but it's the point in time when the person, the team that has most wicket or most runs doesn't click, and that you need to pick up the slack. Will you bring the team home type of thing? So yes, and all of us would love to be the number one player in the world, whether batting or bowling or whatever, but there is a space for that guy that is decisive in key moments. And over the years, it's been a kind of a burden, as I mentioned, but I've started to embrace it. Like, I probably won't get most wickets, I probably won't get most runs, but how many games can I have a major influence in winning? So I think my mindset has shifted a bit, and it's time to just embrace that tag. So yeah, underdog or against the odds type of thing. There's always that one guy in your team that, you know, backs against the wall. Who do we want with ball in hand? Almost did it in PSL as well, Sam, under the new big coach. So I mean, it's something that I strive off. I like to be a little bit more consistent, if I'm honest, but I also appreciate that in certain times, trying times, more often than not, a team will look to me to pull the rabbit out of the hat.
And Sammy, is that something, because you obviously said that you wanted Carlos in your team, so you obviously saw something in him, you know, and as from a captain's perspective, you've seen it from, you know, in different tournaments, different circumstances as well. Did you always see that little kind of super sub spectacularness that, you know, Carlos has? Did you always know he had it in him?
Yeah, well, the thing is, whenever I'm picking a squad, I always try to pick the 11 first. before the tournament start, you have 15 players who's going to be in the 11 and balance the bench. And when I was picking my squad, we all knew Pollard was iffy, but we were giving him the benefit of the doubt because of his knee injury. So then, seriously, the question was between Pollard, Carlos, or Jason. So, well, like I said, from what I saw in T20 cricket, I saw Carlos as the more effective all-rounder for me. You know, because I had Badri, I had Jerome Taylor, I had Solomon Ben, all these guys who bowl in the power play. And watching Carlos played, building up to that year, the way he could bowl in the middle of a period and in the back end of the innings, and what I saw him, you know, batting at number 6 or 7, what he'd done, I thought, if we miss Pollard, this is the guy, you know, with myself, Russell, to finish the innings. So I was in close contact with Pollard. And once all the shenanigans happened about the tour and the contract issues, Pollard backed off. Carlos was the number 1 choice. And I was like, yeah, I finally get the 11 that I would want. And if you know, Jason didn't really play a game in that World Cup because Carlos came in and played all the games. And I always saw him as that guy, you know, like he mentioned, maybe the 4 6s, you know, living up to the expectation over the next 4 years has probably been a challenge, but it's for Carlos to find in his own self a method of how he wants to play the game and understand that won't happen, probably not ever again, you know. But I always saw that fight, you know, in him, and hence he was in the World Cup team.
And then just looking back at, because I have a colleague as well from Pakistan, and I know both of you have such a big following in Pakistan as well. And I feel like Pakistanis always say they understand West Indians, because when you see our teams out there, it's, you know, you can either lose spectacularly or win spectacularly. It's like a flip of a coin. You never absolutely know. And it's like when West Indies or when Pakistan are on one, they are on one. And come hell or high water, nothing you throw at them is going to get through. But do you think there was pressure? How do you feel the West Indies were viewed in that entire 2016 World T20? Because you had obviously won. So, but you spoke about the pressure and how hard it is to live up to it. Do you feel like you were still respected as defending champions as well? Or was it still no?
Remember, they called us I think a commentator said we played headless or play without brains.
Brainless or headless, something like that.
Yeah. Then, you know, as a team, except 2010 in the Caribbean, we've been to the Final Four in the previous World Cups. I may be subject to correction, but we've always been like a semi-finalist in the World Cups, you know. And what we came in the tournament probably in the top 3 seed, you know what I mean? So I don't understand why, looking at the squad that we had, when you have Johnson, Fletcher, Gale, Siemens, you know, Bravo, Russell, you know, Sammy, Brathwaite, when you have that power, and we had the number one bowler in the world in Samuel Badri, when you look at our squad and still don't give us the credit, you know, that really brought the team together. So, like Carlos said, I actually don't mind playing on the underdog. You know, I remember the semi-final against India. I said in the press, it's 17 of us here versus 1.3 billion. And it does feel like a David versus Goliath, but people tend to forget David actually defeated Goliath. And, you know, before we left, we said, I don't know if Carlos could remember, maybe it was me and Uncle Phil and some of the senior players were talking. We said, in order to win this tournament, we must defeat India. And once it came, we would meet them whether in the finals or in the semis. Once it came down to that, we met them in the semis, we took care of business, and we just had the confidence that you know what, against all the odds, the script is written in order for us to get that respect and let the world know that team overcome so many things. We had to bring the trophy home, and as you see, it was divine intervention, and Carlos accepted that responsibility and brought us home.
And Carlos, throughout the whole tournament, how did you view it? Is that kind of how you lived it as well?
Yeah, it's funny because no one gave us a chance. It was England, Afghanistan, and South Africa in our group, if I'm not mistaken. And then even after Gale's 100 against England, it was just like, yeah, well, they lose to South Africa, and then they'll come down to who wins between. It's like, so Britain is not playing. It's like they're just waiting for us to slip up to see who qualified first between England or South Africa, and then we won against South Africa. We assured qualification, and then I think Chris rested against Afghanistan. We lost against Afghanistan, and then it was like, yeah, we knew they'd slip up. We don't think they can get past. He said, okay. Beat India, and it was like, yeah, England has been doing better. So yeah, England, fair enough. So it's like at every hurdle and every juncture, we were, I guess, I don't want to say disrespected because everybody had their own opinions to form. But it's like no one gave us a prayer for whatever reason. But yeah, it just goes to show that no matter what's being said on the outside, once it's galvanized within that dressing room, go out there and play for the right reasons, that it can work wonders.
And it's hard, honestly, to give anybody a prayer against India, in India, in a World Cup semi-final that was literally, as Daren said, a David and Goliath clash. But once you got over that clash, how was it after? Because, Daren, as skipper, you must have tried to keep the morale on a responsible level. But once you feel like you beat India, or once you do beat India in the semi-finals of World Cup, as you say, you must think, oh my goodness, is this written in the stars?
Daren, before you jump in, let me just go back to the semi-final against India.
Yeah.
Kohli comes out the bat.
Yeah.
I think is first 5 balls for sure. Plays a ball back to Bravo.
Them out.
Plays the ball back to Bravo. Runs, turns back. Bravo misses his stump. Turns and runs again. Ramdin misses his stump. And then I like, what is happening? And he got like 80 something on. And then I remember you walking into the dressing room and saying, all right, guys, the 10-15 run short.
Mm-hmm.
And I could feel the mood lift because there's no like obviously 190 in the Wankili is gettable, but knowing that 190 could have easily been 165 if we got him out first and third. And then for you to say that, everybody just like, you know what? That is true. Regardless of how it happened, we got this. And it proved.
Yeah, it's the same scenario when we played England, because the 1KD pitch is such a good pitch, and chasing at especially at night becomes much more easier. So when England scored the 180, I always look at, on a good pitch, if you come out in the power play at 8 runs, let's say 8 or 9 runs per over, by the time you finish the inning, you should be able to set a score at least 10 or 11 runs and over, because the wicket is a good wicket. Both times India came out of the power play at 9 runs and over. They finished the inning at 9 runs and over. So there was no real acceleration, so, and, just like we said against England, we thought England was like 20 runs short. I just felt they run us hard between the wickets, Kohli and Dhoni. I thought some of my guys would have popped my hamstring. But we just looking at their finish, they didn't really kill us with boundaries. So I just thought that wicket, they're about 10-15 runs short. And it proved when we won with 3 or 4 balls to spare, and we did that with Gale getting out in the first over, and we were about 2 or 3 down in the power play. But Simmons coming in his first game, having been played at Mumbai, he knew the wicket quite well. Everything was it worked out perfect, because Fletcher got mad in the match against Sri Lanka, got injured himself, and here we are thinking, I'll tell you something that's never been said before. Everyone are thinking, who shall we bring? Whether we could bring back Pollard or Simmons. And I had a conversation with Pollard, and I said to him, this is the scenario. Obviously, with your experience playing at Mumbai, I would want you, but you've not played any cricket. And Simmons was just coming from a back injury, and he scored 150, I think, in one of the first-class games or one of the games in Trinidad. And Pollard said to me, as much as he would love to come and be part of this tournament, Simmons is playing better cricket. So we went with Simmons. In came Simmons into the 11. He did have the luck of probably three times he could have gone out, but it was no balls. And man, it was just divine intervention. He came in and he did get man of the match for us. And like you said, Carlos, earlier, everybody had the opportunity to step up for the team during the tournament. And that India match sealed it for me as a captain. I thought, okay, we definitely winning this one.
And then what was the reaction like for you guys on a personal level too, just after? Because I feel like the back-to-back wins was what helped to really cement the West Indies as T20 powerhouses in the world. I feel like even then, I mean, there still may be questions now, but after that, it was really hard to question it. I think every league wanted you guys every second, constantly busy. I don't think you saw home in at all. I remember doing Super 50 with Carlos, and Carlos said he still had plastic on his appliances in his house because he hadn't been able to unwrap it yet because of so much traveling, you know. So do you think that cemented, you know, the West Indies status as World T20 powerhouses, or at least finally powerhouses again?
You want me to go first, Carlos?
Yeah, I think it was a case of, I guess, appreciating that it was not only the Pollards and Sammys and Russells who've done it for 3-4 years. Marlon Samuels was back to the fore again. You had Carlos Brathwaite, who just did what he did. Evan Lewis, who just got a gig. If he's good enough to be in this squad, let me check and see what he does in CPL type of thing. So using their experience and their longevity basically opened doors for guys who would have been doing it for as long as they were, and I guess kind of show the world that West Indies had a lot more talent beyond just what they see. We didn't have a Sunil Narine, but we had a Samuel Badri. Bravo probably didn't do it with the bat in that game, but Carlos Brathwaite, who's Carlos Brathwaite, who's Evan Lewis, who's this guy, who's that guy? And then it calls them then, I guess, Rodman Powell would have been a beneficiary of that, because, all right, cool, well, if these are the guys that are playing, then who's next? And then it's like, cool, Rodman Powell, Javon Searles would have gotten an IPL gig, because people then started to respect West Indies cricketers below the level of the Pollards, the Sammys, the Russells, the Bravos, who at that time were probably doing it for 3-4 years.
Daren?
Yes, I think not only that, but if you remember that year, the under-19s won, the women's team won, and the men team followed, and it just propelled West Indies cricketers on the whole. It's like, something is happening there. You know, my conversations with Bravo has always been, what can we do with our generation? Bravo has always been adamant that, you know, in the 70s of tests, in between 1979 and probably the 1990, where we dominated the world in test cricket, that was the legacy for that period, where we dominated and test cricket was our thing. We couldn't be beaten. And he said, yes, we are not at that level in test and one day, but where we could leave a legacy for our generation is how we dominated the T20 format. And I think that win in 2016, you know, cemented that position for us, you know, and it's unfortunate that team that Carlos inherited never got a chance to play. That championship team never got a chance to play a game, you know, together. But what was done was it separated West Indies as a powerhouse and cemented this group of guys' legacy as T20 champions. And like Carlos said, other guys through the Caribbean coming through, the Rovman Powers, the Evan Lewis, Nicholas Purans, all these guys coming through watching that, could say, you know what, I too could be part of the next generation. And that was what was supposed to happen for this World Cup. Now we had 4 years to prepare, and incorporate these youngsters into, what would be the senior old dogs, and build on that, but, everything happens for a reason, but we did set ourselves apart as, T20 champions.
I'm 4 years on now because this is now it's a T20 World Cup coming up
Yep.
later this year in Australia. A lot of changes just in the West Indies setup on a whole from administrative level straight down. Like you said, now we're seeing a lot of the youngsters really coming through, like you said, as well, with, the Rovman Powells, Alzari Josephs as well, making names for themselves in the IPL. And of course, Nicholas Pooran, who the world seems to just be so excited about. So what are your thoughts just on where the West Indies, are now? And I know we're still quite a bit away from the T20 World Cup, but just, again, expectations. Do you still feel that they can be looked at as the heavyweights, as the powerhouse that you guys brought them to back in 2016?
I don't think the world will give us that tag again, because obviously I think for us it will always have to go out and prove. And in 2012 they didn't really give us a chance either. We went out and proved. So I think having that tag is also, it works as a plus for us. But if you look at the players that we have, the young players coming through, the Hetty Myers, Puran, like I mentioned, we don't have a Samuel Badri, but Narain could be back. He missed the last World Cup, So you're looking at positions that were being occupied by the senior guys. How could we, match that lineup? We won't be playing on a subcontinent surface. We'll be playing in Australia where the ball bounces and the boundaries are much bigger. So,
but we have heavy hitters still.
Yeah, all that you have to take into consideration. But I think now, obviously, the coronavirus have hindered everybody's preparation. The T20 games that would have been played. And I won't be surprised if, when this thing phases out, you see teams change the formats that they play and have more T20 series, just to give people preparation, enough preparation for that World Cup. But I will never count out a West Indies T20 team. Never. That will never happen. Once we have guys like the Pollards, Russell, Nicholas Purran, Hetty Myers, we will need a stronger bowling lineup, because what Badri did for us in that first 6 overs, I don't think anybody else have had a power play bowler that have executed like Badri did. So we need somebody to step out with that mantle. And hopefully the CPL, we could uncover some players could seal their picks and step up to the plate during that period if it happens.
And Carlos, what about you? How do you view the team now? Because we're not counting you out, because you are Carlos Brathwaite. Remember the name. So I'm assuming you must still have aspirations to go to another World T20. You're still young, still a young team.
Yeah, for sure. It's a process personally, but from a team perspective, I think what we knew in that team in 2016 is the way we wanted to play. So once the coin came down and Sammy had won, we knew we were bowling first. We knew it was Badri to contain in the first 6. We're going to strangle the team and force them, knowing what we can do in the back end with our batting, to then have to play rash shots and try to get boundaries, which against most teams play. So I think what we need to do is to find a way we want to play in Australia. Would it be the same way? Can we execute it with the people that we still have? And if it is not, then what is our style of play going to be? And once we nail that style of play, as Sammy said, don't ever rule out a team from the West Indies, because people look at 9, 10 over and see it as, such a big task. But with 3, 4 heavy hitters in the West Indian lineup from 4 to 7, 4 to 8, we could get 13, 14 over consistently.
Well, you spoke about just nailing down that style of play, and both of you already have now been used to being in a position of leading. What would you like to see that style of play be now that you especially know Kieran Pollard too, who's now captain of the West Indies, at least the limited overs team? So that's something. What do you make of him as captain, and what would you like to see?
I think what Pollard will bring is that attacking mindset. He's our most experienced T20 player, and as a leader, I played under him, I played with him. His mindset is always get towards winning, and I think that's what a leader's mindset should be. I know Carlos had it, I have it, and he will need time. No matter how well you think you know somebody, you need time to learn as a playing group. You understand? I might know Carlos outside, but on the cricket field, I need that time to play with him. And I am only talking from experience. From captaining in 2010, I literally had, by the time 2012 came, I knew so many of those guys, what situations to use them in, and from constant dialogue, who I would want to execute for me in different situations. And that's why it was so important for Pollard to get those games with those youngsters and the experienced guys to build and see over number 16 to 20. This is who I want. This is the youngster that will thrive. If he's better in the power play, Puran could be better for us at number 4 with 15 overs to go, or at number 6 with 7 overs to go. Where is he most dangerous? So all these things you keep learning your teammates, and but with his experience, having played over the world, I think he will do well. He will do well. He will not die wondering. He will always try to go and win, and that for us is good.
And then before we just start to wrap things up now, I have to ask, of course, these are unprecedented times, what we're doing for. Normally, I'd love to be doing this interview in Barbados or St. Lucia. But instead, I'm sat on the floor in my living room here in London. Mm-hmm. But Carlos, I know, interestingly, we'll start with you, because you said that, of course, after that World T20 final, it was almost like a blessing and a curse for you. So what did you mean by that, and just what are you doing now? Because you still are active. I see you when you workout videos every day.
So yeah, in the aftermath of that, and I had a few conversations about it since then. I was dropped from the test team, was averaging 45, and against credible opposition as well. And I think the lead up to that World Cup final was back in 2015. Around the test team, making my test debut and stuff. And, playing 40 cricket had helped me a lot. And then that was taken away. And I think it was just searching for that ability to bat long enough to continue thinking like a batsman and stop thinking like a swiper or a six-hitter. And I then struggled with not batting enough balls, but being asked to hit 4 sixes every time I went to the bat. And I never pulled it off again, but I started to fight with myself a bit, and then I started to look at that as like kind of a curse. If I didn't do that, I'd be allowed to bat at 5 and 6, and just get time to get in and explode. But now, I see it as a privilege. Like, a lot of people play the career and they don't have something to shout about, to showcase, and I do, and I have it, and it was done against the old enemy, England, in India, where cricket is a religion. So what, it isn't a curse, it's a blessing, regardless of if I never do anything again in cricket, and I still have plans to do. What I've done on that night, in those 4 balls, in that innings, whatever, cherish it, appreciate it. And since that appreciation has come, my whole outlook is different. Just had the PSL, obviously with Corona, had to leave early. but they had 3-4 solid games under the new head coach. And yeah, for me, it's just a process. So getting fit, I really took my fitness serious a year and some ago, seeing the results, and just continue to get better. I think sometimes we strive for different targets and different goals without actually trying to get better. So I've reined all that back in, and instead of trying to hit the more sixes or trying to win games hitting sixes, it's about me just trying to get better day on day. So whether it's fitness-wise, skill-wise, and even, you know, reading more, paying more attention to your mental health, and being psychologically ready, if I could call it that. Yeah, what can I do to be a little bit better?
And Daren, what about you? Speaking of the psychological part of it all, because I know you've been confined to like your bedroom and patio for the past 14 days as well, leaving from the PSL and kind of gone in quarantine, and now St. Lucia's on a lockdown, kind of like the rest of us as well. So what have you been up to? And any plans once, of course, this coronavirus pandemic hopefully goes away sooner than later?
Well, just to follow up on the question you asked Carlos, you know, it was totally different for me. You know, that was the end for me. You know, and you know, it's
premature end.
I still see it as a blessing. You know, as much as I want to be, you know, disappointed that, you know, wow, at 32 I played my last game for West Indies, or perceived to have played my last game for West Indies. You know, what it did, it I think it elevated me as a leader. You know, someone who would stand up for what he believes in, someone who could lead men and manage men. You know, and you know, after this, you know, the following year, you know, I went on to lead Peshawar's Army to a title. You know, we've been to 3 consecutive finals since I became captain. Went to Hong Kong, won the Hong Kong T20 Blitz as well. And you know, Bangladesh took a team to the finals. We lost to Brathwaite, but it really cemented me mentally in a position where, you know what, Daren, you can be a voice. Understand? You could start setting the change, you know, and that was literally the first time I ever went against the grain, against, you know, what you call authority, you know, in my international career, you know, and I take it as it comes, because, you know, we all grew up in Christian homes, and my mom always used to say, you know what, every disappointment is a blessing in disguise. And it gave me an opportunity to be available for every single PSL, where I could go over there and have an impact on 230 million people, you know, to the point where, you know, they appreciate my contribution so much that, you know, they bestowed me the highest award, you know, civil award given in that country. So for me, everything happens for a reason. I still feel I have a part to play in West Indies cricket. As you could see, you know, my role slowly transitioning from player to coach, you know, something I didn't even really think of. But, you know, people who've worked with me always said to me, Daren, you know what, you could lead men. You're good at leading men. So yeah, that transition was like, it was a tough decision, but, you know, I actually enjoyed it, telling Carlos, you know what, talking cricket with Carlos and saying, this is what the plan is, you know, just like captaincy, but in a different, I'm not on the field, you know. And it's one thing I learned: once when you practice and you give the goals and how we want to execute, it's not left in the coach's hands. Carlos have to go and make me look good, you know. but it's been great, and obviously, if everything we take control, if that coronavirus you know, fades out, then we could have the CPL. You know, I'm gonna be with the St. Lucia franchise once again, and, you know, hopefully, you know, Who knows? Give it one more crack, and see what happens.
I mean, I always say if I don't see Daren Sammy as like captain, it's such a weird sight. But you know what, Daren Sammy, future West Indies coach, Carlos, could you see
know.
that? Could you see that?
Yeah.
No, maybe nah.
I mean, not now because of course he's still a young man as well. But
when he learns to catch with the mitt, yes.
Yeah, I think where as especially even for the World Cup, I think as a mentor in terms of someone who've done it in two different
for this World Cup,
yeah, as a mentor, just being there, because I honestly I told Phil before everything was happening, I had a vision that Uncle Phil, myself, all the senior players were reunited in Australia, and we won the World Cup. I had that vision, and you could ask Pollard, Bravo, and Uncle Phil. I shared that vision with them. So maybe I'm not down there. I'm down there, but not in a playing role, if you understand. Maybe somewhere in a mentorship role where we could break down T20 cricket. With all the experienced guys we have. Maybe I see that. Who knows?
Who knows? I think that sounds like an absolute no-brainer to me because you guys have been there, you have done that, you've wrote about it, talked about it, and like I said, here we are 4 years later, sat in different parts of the world talking about it because it's something that nobody wants to forget. I mean, congratulations once again on it. Special congratulations to Carlos for winning the
Remember the name.
That is the true champion right there. Carlos Brathwaite remembered all the names, and of course he had to. Boys, it was so good talking to you again and catching up. Hopefully we can again soon. Hopefully we'll see both of you in Australia.
Alexis, can I say one thing before we leave?
Yeah, of course.
I would like to take this opportunity to remind the world, what we're going through, we're gonna overcome it. So adhere to the necessary precautions. I know most places, are on curfews and lockdown. I am in lockdown here in St. Lucia, but there is you can't put a value on someone's life. So we have to do everything in our power to help stop the spread of this virus. And like I said, just if you ask to stay at home, or do the social distancing, washing your hands, do whatever it takes to help prevent this virus, because it's an opportunity where we actually all in the entire world. That's
Literally.
the only way. If we all get together and execute the plans, that's the only way we could overcome this virus. So be safe to everyone.
It's a chance for all of us to be heroes.